to the ashes of the Imperium.
Hello and welcome to Ashes of the Imperium. My name is Dan and I'm joined by the wonderful Max. And today we are descending on wings of fire as we cover the brand new Blood Angels Codex.
I think this is an exciting one for you, right?
This
Dan?
is a very, very exciting one for me. The
Good.
Blood Angels being my favourite first founding chapter.
I have had my fun for the last few releases. I've got books for all of my armies. It's time for you to get some toys now.
You certainly have. You certainly have. I've been watching jealously as the Custodes book. Well, perhaps not jealously. The Custodes book.
You've been laughing from the sidelines.
Tee. I've been watching jealously as other books that you liked, perhaps not the Custodes ones, have come out, and slightly dreading the release of the Blood Angels Codex because, they are my favourite of the first founding chapter, and I used to collect Blood Angels back in, I want to say, like 5th, 6th, and certainly into 7th, but maybe like 5th and 6th as well. Back when there was a name for it. Basically, it was like Bikes and Devastators and Jump Pack, and it was like Jump Dev or something. I don't know. It was like a netlisty nickname for it. Yeah,
right,
like how people call it, say, like Fish of Fury for Devilfish for fire teams and stuff like that, or all these silly little nicknames that the internet comes up with. But yeah, so very excited to get hold of the Blood Angels Codex, and initial thoughts are that it's really good.
Yes, I agree. I really like what they've done with the detachments. There are only 3, but none of them are obviously bad. I think every single one of them has merit, and we've seen with some of the other books in 10th edition that occasionally there's a detachment that's really I don't think anyone will ever play that. I think all of these will get some playtime, and each has its strengths, which is great.
Interesting. Now, did the Dark Angels Codex have only 3 as well?
Yes, I think so.
Yes, I've just checked the Warhammer app, and Company of Hunters, which is the Ravenwing one, Inner Circle Task Force, the Deathwing one, and then the Unforgiven Task Force, which is kind of the Green Wing one.
Yes, good.
So I think
3, so comparable. But
we've kind of the same, right? We've got like the elite of the chapter, the fast-moving kind of assaulty one, and then the more like vanilla one, which is still quite fast-moving and assaulty.
Yeah. And but where we've read these detachments, and I think both of us have got quite excited and thought, "Oh wow, okay, this is awesome." The Dark Angels one didn't do it so much for us, did it? So
no, that's true.
I think a definite improvement on. I guess the Dark Angels book is the most directly comparable.
Yeah, I think so. It's the only Space Marine supplement that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Back in 7th edition, we of course had the likes of Deathwatch, and we know now, believe that Deathwatch aren't getting a Codex supplement, so we can expect a Space Wolves supplement and a Black Templar supplement for 10th edition in the future. It'll be interesting to see the updates to Space Wolves in terms of models. Logan Grimnar on his Santa Claus sled.
Yeah,
that model's probably due. Logan's probably due a replacement, right?
I think so. I think they need a bit of love, models wise and rules wise too.
It's interesting. Space Wolves are a chapter that I have never really been that into, but as soon as you read Prospero Burns, I'm like, yes, I am a son of Fenris.
The heresy books do a really good job, I think. Well, on the whole, they do a really good job of making them less silly space Viking and a bit more kind of scary warrior. Whereas a lot of the stuff is like the wolf chariot, wolf brother,
Wolfie McWolferson, right?
Yeah, it's just too much, isn't it?
As opposed to Blood Angels, who are all bloody McAngelison. So on the subject of the lore and background of the Blood Angels.
Go on, Dan. Someone who's completely new.
No, other way around. Tell me what you know of the Blood Angels. So we split our Codex reviews into, for listeners who might be joining us for the first time, a little bit of background first, and then we'll go into the lore. So, a little bit of background first, and then we'll go into the rules.
Yes. So I don't know much about the Blood Angels. I know, obviously, I know who their Primarch is. I know the stories of the heresy. I haven't read any of the heresy books that feature them heavily. I've read a few of the books where they are kind of bit part characters, like Master of Mankind. There's a Blood Angel in that. I'm working my way through the Siege of Terror series at the moment, so obviously Sanguinary-curious is featuring heavily there.
naturally. I hope it ends well for him.
Yeah. So what's their shtick, Dan? If we've got
What's
like
their shtick?
if the Emperor's children are perfect and seek perfection, and the Imperial Fists are defense masters, what's the Blood Angels thing?
So I think the Emperor's Children is probably a really interesting comparison
Okay.
because I think there are similarities. The Venn diagram of pride and perfection and stuff like that, there's a significant overlap.
They're very beautiful, right?
They are. That's why I relate to them so much, Max.
you're a Renaissance painting come
absolutely
to life.
chiseled from alabaster myself, much like Michelangelo's David. So yeah, I suppose they've got that kind of baroque, kind of gothic beauty and artistry, but I suppose they don't take it up to 11 like the Emperor's Children do into the realms of sinful excess.
Yeah, okay. They've got a lid on it.
Yeah, they've got a lid on that. They don't have a lid on other things. Their flaws are evident in other bits of their heritage. But yeah, so they are. I think Sanguinius could have been the War Master.
Yes. Yeah. Why do you think he wasn't? Why do you think the Emperor chose Horus?
I think Horus has probably got a bit more, I suppose, like grit and ruthlessness to him.
Okay.
Not that clearly, Sanguinius being a Primarch, he has, all the grit and ruthlessness you might need, but perhaps not for that role.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's sometimes portrayed as sort of slightly aloof. He was
from it.
Detached, yeah, but also detached from humanity, given that he quite literally has
wings,
angel's wings.
Yeah,
angel's wings.
He is an angel, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I think Horus before the fall was kind of seen as
relatable.
Relatable to humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very charismatic, wasn't he? A good leader. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Sanguinius was absolutely all those things, but he's slightly less human.
Because Horus kind of grew up with the gangs, didn't he, on Chthonia and
so he's kind of got that like man of the people. Yeah. Although interestingly, and which is what makes the betrayal and that final scene aboard the Vengeful Spirit so all the more tragic, is that Horus and Sanguinius were busy mates.
They were
very, very close brothers, you might say.
Am I right in thinking that Sanguinius knew that he was going to die that day? Spoilers.
Oh yes, I believe so. Yeah, so he had this kind of what do you call it? Premonition.
Prescience.
Prescience. That's the right word. Thank you, Max. Also, psychic power in 40k. Yeah, so absolutely, I believe he knew that he was going to die and kind of went to confront his brother, knowing his fate. But yeah, it's really interesting. And then kind of fast forward into 40k, you kind of ask me like, what's their shtick? They are, I think, the Space Marines are often referred to as the Angels of Death, and I think the Blood Angels really epitomize that. They are angelic in, I suppose, style. In terms of, they've got models with wings, in brackets, perhaps not the new Sanguinary Guard, more on which later. But, they've got this kind of, as I say, like Renaissance, Baroque vibe about them. Some of the hero models have wings.
They've got really six-pack armor.
Six-pack armor, absolutely. Chiseled abs. They really kind of lean into that. But they also lean into the kind of like the jump pack and close combat thing. And I think that's, if you compare something like the Imperial Fists, who are very kind of siege and defense experts.
Yeah. I've got an Imperial Fist army, and it's very much a gun line, right? It would feel out of theme for me to load that army up with lots of assault intercessors with jump packs and that kind of stuff. And,
for sure. When was the last time you saw a close combat Imperial Fist army?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got Terminators in them, but that feels kind of like appropriate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also Terminators, I think, are the kind of the ultimate sort of Joker card to play on the battlefield, because they're very defensive in that they've got a good armor save, and they've got this. Let's aside from rules, let's talk sort of the battlefield role in the background. They've got this impervious armor, and they've also got. They can have things like cyclone missile launchers. They've all got storm bolters, but then they've also can have like power swords and power fists and things like that.
They're
enough. Yeah, absolutely. So Blood Angels, they are really a close combat army. I suppose defined often by the jump packs and kind of jump lists. And the Storm Raven, originally being a Blood Angels only flyer when it first came out, it then later got kind of the STC was leaked to the wider Astartes, and they are, I suppose, defined by a dual flaw. and which is kind of like one flaw, but manifests itself in two ways. And that is the red thirst and the black rage. So what do you know of the red thirst and black rage?
Are they vampires? Like, do they drink? Do they actually
Are they space vampires? Yes.
say it? What's that
Say
Twilight
it, say it.
scene?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I am.
Look, you like, it's cool. You like Space Wolves. You're obviously Team Jacob. I like Blood Angels.
Yeah,
I'm obviously
yeah.
Team, what's his name? Edward.
Edmund.
Edmund. It's not Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. Stop
Edmund.
getting literature wrong. Also, stop putting Twilight in the same bracket as the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Well, of course, it's far above. Anyway,
Oh my god! I just took a drink of water, Max, and nearly spat it out over the keyboard. You absolute fiend! Narnia versus Twilight. Oh, right, don't get me started. Anyway, yes. So they are space vampires.
yeah, okay. Okay.
They're
So they actually drink blood.
it's part of their rituals. They have blood
Right.
rituals.
What,
They drink
human blood or their own blood?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
okay.
Kind of they might put a drop of blood in their wine, that kind of thing. Of course, they're drinking red wine because they're a bit bougie as well.
Yes.
And so I think really they're the kind of like upper middle class Space Marines.
Got you.
They
Okay.
enjoy a good Merlot at the end of the day. So their omophagia, an organ which allows Space Marines to absorb the skill and memories of the dead by consuming their flesh,
Mhm.
is said to be overactive.
Overactive for the Blood Angels. Okay.
Yeah.
So as part of their ritual, they consume that organic material to absorb the memories and the experiences of their sort of fallen brothers. Is it like a respectful thing?
Oh yeah, for
A
sure,
ritual
for
thing?
sure.
Right. Okay.
But it can also be used, like, I think this is one of the kind of slightly creepy, dark things that's not necessarily drawn into in a lot of the lore in Space Marines, is that all Space Marines can do that. And they can do that with the blood of the flesh of their enemies. It's kind of like Kroot do it, and that's part of their vibe.
Yeah,
This like weird, like cannibalism / whatever it's called, battlefield cannibalism isn't really let into. But yeah, so the red thirst and black rage. Basically, red thirst is okay. Black rage is bad.
Right.
Red thirst is this kind of like deeply recessed hunger, like a deep within the psyche of every son of Sanguinius is a destructive yearning, a blood hunger that haunts their every waking moment and aches to be unleashed without restraint, but must be held at bay.
So, like Dexter, if you've ever seen Dexter,
Yeah, I suppose.
he's all he wants to do is kill, but he's got a handle on it.
Yeah,
For the most part, and he restrains it.
exactly.
Okay.
And basically, they use this red thirst to kind of to unlock a savagery in battle. And that's been in previous editions. That's been manifests itself in the rules as like giving them furious charge, things like that.
I was going to say special rules for Blood Angels are always very focused on melee improvement, aren't they? And they reward you for getting into combat.
For sure,
And
or get you into combat earlier, or reward you for getting into combat.
Yeah, that's been the case since I've been playing again since 8th edition. So I'm assuming that's kind of their their ability. That's basically something that is part and parcel of being a Blood Angel. Mhm.
And it's this kind of like seething. I don't want to say rage because that's something else. It's this kind of seething hunger that sits beneath the surface that in battle they can kind of unlock it. And when people say like that they go into like a flow state, when you're like, when I go into my like ADHD hyper productivity mode, often at like 12:45 in the evening when I've got an early start, I'm like, no, I must tidy all my codexes and put them in release order. It's kind of like that. And they're like, cool, I'm gonna succumb to the red thirst. My eyes go red. It's that kind of like
bullet time activates.
Anime, boss mode activates, that kind of thing. The field of view goes blurry at the edges. All that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that is carefully managed by the Sanguinary priests that make sure that kind of doesn't go too far, because effectively sometimes they kind of get lost to the thirst, and that can start to give them visions.
So does a sanguinary priest, are they more like a spiritual, or are they doing something biological to keep it in check?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Okay.
They're kind of like hyper apothecaries.
Right.
And we'll compare the rules of an apothecary versus a sanguinary priest in a minute. But they kind of they do. Chaplains obviously do spiritual guidance. Apothecaries kind of do like physical
fixing
stuff.
Fixing people up. Yeah,
absolutely. Whereas the sanguinary priest kind of do a little bit of both. So the Codex says the secrets of Sanguinius' blood are central to the traditions of the chapter. It is the responsibility of the Sanguinary priests to guard them, in addition to being fully trained apothecaries.
Cool. That's good. I like that. And that's an interesting addition.
It's believed that during the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy, the Legion's aspirants imbibed samples of Sanguinus' blood in a process called insanguination. After the Primarch's tragic fall, the Sanguinary priests retained the last drops of Sanguinus' blood in the Red Grail. They then injected what remained of this most precious resource into their bodies to preserve it, making them its living hosts. Even now, this blood flows in the veins of the Sanguinary priests, as each has supped from the Red Grail upon their ascension to this brotherhood. And it is this that is given to the chapter's recruits.
Very cool.
So
Okay.
every single blood angel that ascends to the chapter has imbibed the blood of the priests, which they themselves have imbibed the blood of the Primarch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've not got the very good stuff, but they've got the
no, it's kind of like slightly watered down.
I mean, Sanguinius was big, right? But
yeah, he's a big lad for sure.
But there's not that much blood to go around. You got to ration it.
Yeah, and he's a big daddy priest is a guy called Brother Corbulo. He is the high priest he's the sanguinary high priest of the Blood Angels. He's the keeper of the Red Grail.
Very good.
Sadly, there is no Brother Corbulo model anymore. Well, I mean, the model still exists out there, but like, there's no rules.
There's no Primaris version.
There's no Primaris version.
He's not got an upgrade, but there have been some good upgrades.
They have, and we will discuss that
Yes.
in a mere moment.
Yes.
So that's the Red Thirst. Now we'll talk about the Black Rage. Now, effectively, they go crazy. They go mad, and they start seeing visions of the death of the Primarch.
Mm-hmm.
To other Space Marines or other, observers, they basically start, like, Horus, you traitor, and they start seeing everyone as
Horus.
as a son of Horus or as the Primarch themselves, and it's like they're living the last moments of their Primarch.
Okay.
And so they just get this kind of, not even a red mist, a black mist,
mm-hmm.
and they just go utterly crazy.
And does this come on quite suddenly?
It can kind of come on in battle. It can come on like sort of in the wake of battle, stuff like that. And it's basically the Red Thirst turned up to 11, and then 12, and then 13, and then some.
Right. Can you come back from that?
No.
If you succumb, right?
No.
That's it. You're done.
That is you. It's effectively a death sentence.
Okay.
Obviously, there is one person who has come back from the Black Rage. Okay. The man, the myth, the legend. That is. Go on.
Is it Mephiston?
It is.
Okay,
Calistarius himself.
I know more than I thought.
Exactly. We'll get you painting red soon enough. So yes, Calistarius, who then later became Mephiston, the chief librarian, and he suffered. He succumbed to the Black Rage, and then ultimately came back from the brink or beyond the brink. I believe he's even done it twice, actually. So he's no one's done it, but he's done it twice.
He's
just
done
to
it
show
twice.
you how special it is.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah. People basically went, "Nah, prove it." He was like, "What? What? I've done it." No, I don't believe you. Do it again. Show us. And he's like, "Fine." But, yeah.
So who are some of your favourite characters for the Blood Angels in the lore then? Who stands out for you?
Well, Dante's a pretty badass guy.
He's become much more prominent as well, hasn't he? He's got a very definite role with the Imperium Nihilus as well.
He does. He is the warden of Imperial Nihilus.
Yeah, and he's
Dante's
very old.
Pretty cool. He's very old. I believe, again, he's the oldest Space Marine.
Yeah, he just wants to retire, right?
He's amongst the oldest. Oh yeah, listen to Devastation of Baal, and it's obvious that he's just like,
oh, I'm so tired.
Fed up. So fed up.
My knees hurt. I just
relatable. He's kind of just like, I just want to chill out. Like, where's the garden?
Yeah. Okay.
He's had a cool new model as well.
Yeah.
And Devastation of Baal is a really cool book to read. It's also / listen to, audible. But also it's a really cool little moment in the Blood Angels kind of chapter. And it kind of happened, effectively, it's like pre-Great Rift.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pre-Primaris, and High Fleet Leviathan are descending on the Baal system. And Dante basically puts out like a Charlie 1 kind of all call signs. Hey, any Blood Angels, any of the successors, come back and defend the homeland.
Help us out.
The chapter, home planet.
We need you. Yeah,
absolutely. So every single successor chapter was drawn to Baal by a direct order from the chapter master. Some people didn't respond.
Right. What? Like they didn't get the message, or they chose?
Well, controversially,
okay.
some people got the message and mugged it off. So that the Atlantean Spears,
Right.
who are a really cool chapter looking wise. They've kind of got this
Ooh,
like
nice colour,
sea green,
yeah.
turquoisey, yeah, O'Donnell, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
The Atlantean Spears ignored Dante's call for aid. The chapter's large librarians received the message but took no action.
Oh God, they ghosted them.
Yeah, absolutely. Left them on red. So
Yeah.
that's pretty bold. But also other chapters, such as I think it's the Knights of Blood. So the Knights of Blood were a renegade Space Marine chapter. They were declared renegades and excommunicate traitores by the High Lords of Terror because of the terrible destruction they wrought against friends and allies alike. Now they had quite a cool, like metallic, funky looking scheme. I'm not sure I'd like to paint it, but whatever. And they basically were kind of excommunicated from the Imperium because of, just giving in to their destructive urges. And, you wouldn't, when the drop pods arrive, you're an Imperial Guardsman, the drop pods arrive. They're like, hooray, the Astartes are here. And then it's like, oh no, it's the Knights of Blood. Uh-oh. Good thing I wrote a will.
Yeah, okay, right. They took it too far.
But they came back. They came back and they were like, Daddy Dante, will you forgive us? We're here to, we know we're not like the favorite relatives, but we are here to help.
Yeah.
And basically the chapter master of the Knights of Blood is like, this is how we clear our name.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this really touching moment where he's kind of like between the two chapter masters of the Blood Angels and the Knights of Blood, and the Knights of Blood chapter master's kind of like, make sure people know that we did this.
Oh,
like we did this to clear the chapter's name. We have our flaws, but we came back to defend humanity because that's what we were created for. Yeah, that's their little redemption arc. And they were then consumed by High Fleet Leviathan to the man.
Oh dear. So they're no more.
They are no more, which is a shame. And I suppose you could you create your own Knights of Blood Primaris army? Because I think, if I remember correctly, Dante's like, we're not going to do that, because I remember like reading and being like, oh, how cool! Like the Knights of Blood, you could like do a Knights of Blood army and say it's their redeeming thing. Dante was like, nah, I think you've
done good to come back, but
you've done good to come back.
Let's not push it. Yeah, okay.
And then you've got sort of iconic chapters like the Lamenters and the Flesh Terrors.
Yes. Okay. Right. So I know that the Flesh Terrors have got a literal buzzsaw as their chapter symbol. So I'm guessing they're quite angry.
They are super angry. They are where like Blood Angels are kind of this kind of simmering anger underneath. They wear their anger is less simmering, more bubbling over.
Yeah. Okay. So they would get on quite well with some World Eaters, perhaps.
Yeah, I think they are like that's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. They're the good World Eaters. Yeah.
Interestingly, Gabriel Seth, also the chapter master of the Flesh Terrors, not present in the Codex.
No. Has he ever had a model?
He has, yeah. He's got a really cool model. He's got like this massive eviscerator chainsaw.
Yes, yeah, okay. And he's got no rules, has he? Which is a shame. They are having a bit of a character cull, aren't they?
They are. I think that is one of the sad things about any new book is the disappearance of some iconic models. You've also got things like the Librarian Dreadnought.
Yeah, that's gone.
Also missing, along with its kind of sister kit, the Furiosa Dreadnought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
a definite kind of tidy up and trimming going on as the new books are coming out.
Yeah, and it makes me a little bit cautious. We lost, Long Strike in the Tau book.
Oh, we lost loads of orcs as well, didn't we?
Loads of orc models, yeah. You've obviously got the new Snickrock, but you don't have is it Captain Badrock, the space pirate one, the jump back guy, Zagstruck. Yeah, lots of models. It makes me curious about things like the Eldari that've got a lot of special characters.
How's that going to get rid of? How's that going to shake out? Yeah.
Like which one are they going to get rid of? Some of the Phoenix Lords because they don't have new models, or are they going to release all the models in plastic? Like who knows? So that is a little run through of the background of the Blood Angels. Do you have a particular favourite successor chapter that you're aware of?
Well, I mean, I know the Lamenter's colour scheme very well because it's quite iconic, isn't it? With the yellow and the heart and the black and white checkerboard. I think if I wanted to push myself, that would be a fun army to paint. I don't think I'd be able to do it very quickly. I'd have to think about some kind of creative solution for the checkerboarding. But I mean, I've got a nice yellow recipe from my Imperial Fists, of course.
Aren't you bored of painting yellow?
Well, I'm almost done with that army, so
Okay.
I'll work on some more and work on some other projects, and then maybe I'll fancy a bit of yellow again. I don't think I'll pick up a Lamenter's army anytime
No.
soon, but
No.
I do like their color scheme, and I think it stands out from some of the other successor chapters who are
For
very,
sure.
just kind of like variants of red. Although the Flesh Tearers have a lovely scheme, I like their black and red, and it's a bit of a deeper red, isn't it?
It
It's
is,
not
yeah. It's
so-
more kind of like word bearers-y in
yeah.
style.
Oh God, they are very flirty with chaos, aren't
They
they?
are,
But-
aren't they?
But I think those are the two that stand out to me. I was looking at some of the other successor chapters in the book, and I didn't know a lot about them. I'll be honest.
I think if I was going to do a successor chapter, one of my favorite things, in terms of like a hobby perspective, one of my favorite things about successor chapters is the opportunity to do something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And now, as you say, like a lot of the Blood Angels Codex sort of chapters are successors are very similar.
Yeah.
You know, it's variant on black and red.
Mm-hmm.
What I quite like about the Angels in Carmine, so they have a blood drop with bat wings instead of angel wings.
Yep.
And they have this kind of black trim, so it almost looks kind of second edition Blood Angels-y,
Mm-hmm.
because in the kind of Blood Angels iconography, their shoulder pads and shoulder trims are red, whereas I think sergeants in second edition Blood Angels had black trim, whereas this whole army's got black trim shoulder pads. But their Death Company are white.
So
rather than
every
black.
successor has a Death Company, do they?
So every Blood Angels chapter suffers from the flaw.
From the Red Thirst and the Black Rage.
From the Red Thirst and the Black Rage, yeah.
Oh, very good.
Some might just, some paint their dudes black because that is the Brotherhood of the Lost. That's their vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But the Angels in Carmine, the appearance of the Sanguinary during the Varix campaign saw the Angels in Carmine deploy their Death Company in alabaster white as tribute.
Ooh, a whole army painted up like that would look really good, wouldn't it?
It would look really cool.
With the Death Company cross on there as well.
For sure.
Yeah, that's very neat.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'd do something like the Angels in Carmine just to have a little, slight difference.
Yeah.
Although white's probably slightly harder to paint than black, so perhaps not. I think if the Atlantean Spears had responded to the call, I would be tempted by them. They're cool because they've got this really awesome, as you say, like kind of tealy sea green color with gold trim and with gold helmets.
I was trying to think what other chapters you'd paint up like that.
I want to say Sons of Horus.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. That's my colour, isn't it?
They were featured in one of the White Dwarf Flashpoint articles as well in the Argovan campaign. So,
but you've gone off them because they didn't help. I think that's
they didn't
fair
help,
enough.
which is a shame. But
they need to explain why.
They do. Yeah, they've got some explaining to do.
Going on. Yeah.
One of the things from a hobby perspective that I love the most about the Blood Angels is their different coloured hats.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get me interested in a Space Marine army, give them different coloured hats.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things like, for example, Ultramarines, their sergeants have red helmets instead of blue helmets.
Same with my fists, yeah.
Same with your fist. What is it? Is it red?
Red helmet on the sergeant, yeah.
Whereas Blood Angels do it by role rather than rank. So close support has yellow, and they've got the Blood Angels Assault Intercessors or Assault Marines with yellow helmets is like such an iconic look for me.
Yeah,
and it's also very like my brother had some Blood Angels models, Assault Marines, and they had no, wait a minute. It's also very like iconic for me and very like hits me in the nostalgia feels. My brother had the Angels of Death Codex. He had a Dark Angels army back in the day, and obviously, being two young boys, if my brother had the Dark Angels, then obviously I had to have the Blood Angels. I was like, I want to read the book too, and he's like, well, you can't do Dark Angels. I'm like, well, cool, I'll do Blood Angels then, and that's kind of where my love of Blood Angels started. Yeah, so yellow for close support, blue for fire support, and gold for veteran and command. And then you've got things like Eradicators now, the new Primaris dudes with all these big melter guns. They have blue helmets.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that's when you've got a nice balanced army on the table as well, and you have those color points of difference. It's really, really satisfying, isn't it, to see that? Like, sure. Even with my fists, I just like picking out, just the veterans have like a red helmet with a white stripe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love those tiny differences you can make across the army. I think it really adds to the look on the table.
For sure. Do love a bit of coordination, and this book certainly got me very excited to paint up my Blood Angels.
Yeah. So where are you at with those? You've got a start of a Primaris army for them, and
Yeah, I kind of I went with had a bit of a hobby pause on Space Marines because I wasn't really sure, where I was going to take the list, and I did have an event that I was going to get them painted up for. We spoke about it on a previous podcast. But then I had to bail on that, frustratingly. So I haven't, I love a deadline. I love a deadline to use that as something to aim towards. And without that deadline, I've struggled to kind of get the army done.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've been really enjoying painting my Alpha Legion for Heresy. I'm on a massive Heresy kick at the moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of a choice between, okay, cool.
Churning those out, haven't you? Yeah.
Wow, yeah. That's what happens when you set yourself ambitious deadlines. Oh no, I've got an event next week, and you haven't done the units. Yeah, so at the moment, it's a kind of a choice between, do I paint some Red Space Marines for event that I'm not going to, versus do I paint some Alpha Legion for an event that I am going to. So it's kind of always a balance of stuff. But I should definitely get my Blood Angels done in some variety, whether it's as a pure Blood Angels army or a successor. We'll have to wait and see.
So should we talk about rules?
Let's do it. What do you think of the rules overall?
Very solid. Yeah, I think like I mentioned briefly at the start of the episode, there are none of the detachments that stand out to me as being objectively weaker. I think every single one has got a purpose and a role. That, of course, being Space Marines, you get access to Oath of Moment as your kind of army rule, which is a really powerful buff. One unit, all rerolls to hit is very, very good. One particular detachment stood out to me, which was the Liberator Assault Group, and I really liked that one because it had a mechanic that I've not seen in any of the other books yet, which is for the detachments, for the stratagems, you can select the stratagem. They're all 1 CP, so they all interact really nicely with the captain ability to reduce a stratagem by 1, so you can get 3 stratagems. And I'm pretty sure that's a theme throughout the detachments in this book too. But with those stratagems, you kind of get an effect, but then you can also choose to succumb to the red thirst as well. And if you do that, you kind of get both potential effects of the stratagem, but you have to you become battle shocked. So you can really overcharge the stratagem, but at the expense of becoming battle shocked. So there's that kind of risk-reward mechanic, which I really enjoy. It's one of the things I love about my Chaos Space Marines so much, is making those dark pacts. There's the potential for mortal wounds, but you also get some really powerful benefits to it as well. I don't think it's as much of a gamble for this as it is for things like Dark Pact, but it's just a really interesting mechanic that sparks my imagination and my interest. And I think, you can imagine those really clutch moments in a game, in a battle, where it's I have to kill that unit. I've got bring it down or something as an objective. I could maybe try and overpower the objective and get some primary points here, but no, if I get this secondary, then that's the thing that's going to win me the game. So let's overcharge this stratagem. Let's succumb to the red first and really power up our melee. A cool mechanic from a gameplay perspective, but from a narrative perspective as well. I think it can tell some stories, and it's not often that I see the stratagems as an opportunity to tell those stories. So yeah, I really liked that idea.
It is really interesting, isn't it? Because it does show you, I suppose, how mindless the Space Marines can become in the grip of the red thirst.
Mm-hmm.
You're reducing, because battle shocked means that your OC is 0, right?
Yeah, and you can't be affected by stratagems either.
No, so this is kind of, you use the stratagem on them, and then you can't use other ones on them until the end of it. Until they unbattle shock, basically. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting in the brackets after it becomes battle shocked, it says, but the effects of this stratagem still apply.
Yeah.
So you don't have any weird interactions of, the battle shock, they can't be affected by the stratagem. But you're like, but the stratagem did battle shock them.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And an example would be Red Rampage. You can choose Lance or Lethal Heads, or Red Thirst, and you get both.
Yep, exactly. exactly.
Or you can shoot or declare a charge after you advance. Or if you give it to red first, you can do both.
Mm-hmm. It's a good mix, isn't it? It's all, like we said, with this kind of shtick of the Blood Angels, they're all very focused on getting you into the fight and then, really powering up once you're in there as well. And you get Armor of Contempt, of course, which every Space Marine gets. You have an ability to turn on 5 up for pain against mortal wounds, which is quite useful. But the 4 kind of Red Thirst themed stratagems are all very useful and all really good for powering up melee or getting you in there.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the index. They had Armor of Contempt, of course, in there. They had Angel's Sacrifice, which I think is replicated
In one
by
of the
kind of
detachments.
Glorious Sacrifice, which is a Death Company only one. And then Red Rampage did exist, but it gave you lance and lethal hits for 1 CP,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. So Red Rampage has de facto gotten worse because it's still, the old version was 1 CP, lance and lethal, and that's it. Whereas this one, okay, it's lance or lethal, but you can ramp it up. So I think they've kind of balanced it slightly.
Yeah. But done it in a way that adds flavour.
For sure.
Like, I would not feel hard done by with that change if I was a Blood Angels player. I'd be like, well, okay, it kind of fits. It fits the fluff of my army. Like, yeah, I'll go with that.
I think so, and I think they've changed aggressive onslaught to then fit in with that mechanic because previously it was you can consolidate 6 inches instead of 3 inches, whereas now you've got that shooting and charging or shooting or charging plus in brackets shooting or charging whatever.
Yeah, which is always really powerful, always really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your list.
Yes. So we should look at. I have chosen this Liberator Assault Group.
Okay.
The detachment rule is Red Thirst, and it gives every Adeptus Astartes unit, so that applies to a lot of units, which is good. I always like it where the detachment rule has lots of applicability.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I go back to our look at the Genestealer Cults Codex, a lot of the detachment rules were hyper specific.
They were.
And it very much pigeonholed you into, okay, well, this is what I have to build them. But for this one,
I often like because I like a hyper focused list.
Yeah,
leaning heavily into the theme, whereas you tend to towards more kind of generalist. Armies.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah. Apart from my entire Kroot army, which is on.
That's true. That's true.
But that's a rare departure for me. But yes, each time an Adeptus Astartes unit from your army is selected to fight, if it made a charge this turn until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristic and add 2 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit. So I've gone and thought, okay, well, what's that leaning into? And what would I like to see on the table? And I think, well, that to me sounds like a line breaker. That sounds like a detachment or an army that is geared up to hit the line hard, break it open for some of the lesser units, lesser regiments to kind of come in and kind of clear up, right? Expose that gap that's just been made. So I've lent really heavily into that, and I've gone for a Death Company captain, just the foot slogging one.
Interesting.
He's leading up a unit of 10 Death Company Marines, and they're riding around.
CC version or shooty version?
The close combat.
Yeah,
close combat. Because I think the shooty one are called Death Company Marines with bolt rifles on.
They are indeed.
Yeah. So the punchy ones, and I've put those in a Land Raider as a nice, tough delivery mechanism.
Very line breakery.
And Land Raiders are good because you can get out and charge like after you move. So like instant, like get them in there, deliver it. The Land Raider can then stick around and provide fire support, or if you push to the middle of the board and they've got out and done their fighting, then the Land Raider sat on a middle objective, and but it's a very strong unit in this edition. Then I've followed that up with, if that's the kind of initial hit, then if that's the smack around the jaw, then we got the Body Blows, which is 3 impulsors with 3 units of Blade Guard in there. So maxed out units of Blade Guard in 3 impulsors. That's like your second wave. And Blade Guard are a very, very strong unit, of course. They will really benefit from some of the offensive buffs for the stratagems in this book. They will really benefit from the extra attacks and the 2 to strength. So I think that would be a good one to have, and they can stick around for a long time, of course, with their shields and their extra wound. And then bringing up the rear, I've got a couple of units of intercessors just to kind of sit around at the back with their sticky objectives. So 2 squads of 5 of those, nice and cheap at 80 points. Good for kind of, spreading out across the board and, getting into the corners and stuff and thinking about secondary. I couldn't resist, but I've added a Death Company Dreadnought in there too. Very, very strong unit. Like, points, we always have to sort of wait and see for those, don't we? How they're going to shake out, like, once it's actually on the app and stuff. But at 220 points in the book, it's quite an investment for the Dreadnought. But I think the rules back it up. Like, if I was to go...
Yeah, so Brutalis Dreadnought is 160.
Which I also have in this list.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's my last unit, is the Brutalis Dreadnought. But the Death Company Dreadnought, all the Death Company units get Black Rage, don't they? So when it makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll. But there's if it's not within 12 of a friendly chaplain model, it can't be selected to fall back, and it has a 0 OC.
Yeah,
I have no chaplains, so all of my Death Company units in this list are fully raging out. But whatever. I think that's quite fun. It fits the theme of the list.
Yeah, I really like that, actually, and the sort of the interplay between the Death Company rules making them 0 and the compared to your stratagems, which turn your normal dudes to 0. Now, interestingly, if you've got no chaplains, all of your DC are going to be OC 0, which means that you can apply the stratagems in their kind of phase 2 mode without any negative impact, because they're already OC 0. So it's almost like you're not playing the game. You're like, I'm not gonna bother mitigating their weakness, and I'm actually going to lean into it.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Their job is to kill.
Yeah, kill and then be killed, and
which is how they're used, right? That's how
absolutely cleanse the stain on their souls.
Yeah, and I really like the Death Company Dreadnought. I think the Brutalis Dreadnoughts look brilliant.
They do.
Painted up in black with the red cross and everything, it really, really starts to, kick butt.
Honestly, as soon as that model got released, the first thing I think I remember saying is, I want to paint that up as a Death Company Dreadnought. Yeah. And I'm a little bit gutted I haven't done so already, because then I could, be a Death Company hipster and be like, did this before everyone else? Did this before? It was cool. No, I'm just going to look like a damn bandwagoner.
Oh, well. But yeah, driven by fury, they've got this awesome rule as well. Like, basically, when they get shot at or take damage, they move towards the target that did it. You roll a d6, add 2, and it has to move closer to the unit that just damaged it. So, you can shoot at it if you want, but he's coming to get you. Like, that's really good. And then, very strong weapon profile with the Blood Talons. I think I would take Blood Talons over the Blood Fists with the shooters. I'd just go, full with the Blood Talons. You get the 2 attack profiles, the strike or the sweep. Lots of attacks, good AP, good damage. And of course, even the Dreadnoughts are benefiting from the detachment rule, because they're Adeptus Astartes units. So you're getting +1 attack and +2 to the strength. It makes them very, very scary. And excuse me, there's one more unit hanging out in my list. Up in the skies, waiting to come down. I've gone for the Sanguinary as well, because this has got such a unique rule. He's got a very good attack profile, 8 attacks with his Encarmine Broadsword with devastating wounds, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2. That would be strength 8, of course, if he's charging. So, we're wounding Marines on 2s then. But how about this for an ability? Miraculous Saviour. Once per battle, at the end of your opponent's charge phase, if this model is still in reserves, because it has Deep Strike, you can select one enemy unit that made the charge move this phase, set that model up on the battlefield within engagement range of that enemy unit. So,
wow.
It's so good. Like, comes in at the last minute to save the day. And it's not even drop within 3 inches or drop within 9 straight away. It's not like, rapid ingress for free. It's like, nope, he's there. He's in combat with the unit that just charged.
There's no risk of rolling a double one there.
Yeah. And he has fights first. I'll be interested to see how that interacts. Like, because, technically, like, this is why people used to hate my playing against my Custodes at the start. you charge for Custodes in your turn. I use a stratagem to give them fights first. They can then attack before your charging unit has fought because of the way that the ordering works now for combat. Does that mean that when the Sanguinor drops in, he gets to attack before that charging unit has even fought? Like, if that's the case, that could be really good. Like, really take the sting out of a charge, couldn't it? I'm guessing that's how it's intended, but
I'd have to check the rules. But
Yeah.
and anything that interrupts is always good.
So yeah, that's my list. I've gone for the line breaker. I've imagined like 3 waves. With the Death Company smashing the initial hole in the line, and then the dreadnoughts following up and consolidating, and then the Blade Guard coming in. They've succumbed to the Red Thirst, but they're in control of it, and they're kind of like consummately mopping up. And then the intercessors kind of sit at the back and support and grab a couple of objectives for the guys.
Nice.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I really like it. It's very themed. I think it's very Blood Angels-y, and you've taken a nice mix of units as well.
Yes, and you could also give the Death Company captain, I've got the points to give him the speed of the Primarch for an enhancement.
Nice.
And that means that once per battle, I can use that enhancement, and then his unit gets fight first. So I could give my Death Company fights first if I needed to. So if they charge out a unit, they then get countercharged, they can still do some damage,
Yeah, and then you can, if they get charged, you can make them fight first, and then pile a bunch of, one of the stratagems on them to give them.
Really power them up.
You wouldn't want to give them
raging.
Lance, would you? Because that's when you charge. So you could give them Savage Echoes.
Savage Echoes, yep. You could. That gives you strength for attacks. Well, you could buff up the strength and attacks of that unit. Yeah. So kind of give them their detachment buff even when they've not charged almost. Yeah, really good.
Exactly, because you're basically that's kind of like counter charge, right? Counter attack type thing.
Yeah, and they don't care. They don't care because they don't care about OC because they're raging. So
it's so good. Yeah, I love it. I think that's a really cool, fluffy little list, actually.
Good, thank you.
How do you think it would perform kind of on the tabletop?
I think it'd be a good kind of pick-up game list. I don't think there's anything too egregious in there. I think it could deal with, you've got a Land Raider for a bit of anti-tank.
Did you go for the Godhammer pattern Land Raider?
Yeah, just with the las cannons. Yeah, that's what I had the points for.
Oh, fair enough.
You could go, with the high strength attacks from the Dreadnoughts, particularly on the charge, is good anti-tank as well. There's a little bit of objective control there. There's good mobility with the transports. I think it's just a good, solid kind of all-rounder list. It's not going to I don't think it would offend anybody. I don't think you'd put it down on the table and go, oh God, don't want to play that. I think it's a good all-rounder.
Nice, very cool.
So what tickled your fancy?
Well, naturally it was Death Company Max, naturally. We should I suppose, an honourable mention to the third detachment, which is the Angelic Host.
Yes.
That detachment rule is Upon Wings of Fire. So at the end of your opponent's turn, you can select a number of jump pack units from your army, excluding units that are within engagement range of one or more enemy units. And you remove those units from the battlefield and place them in strategic reserves. In the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, set each one of those units up using their deep strike ability.
Yeah, so jumping around all over the place. I did write a little list for that detachment.
I think this is probably...
It's quite gimmicky.
You reckon?
Well, I mean, I think it's quite strong.
I think it's the best one.
Yeah.
In terms of tournament play.
Yeah. So I won't go through it in detail, but my list for that is every single model's got a jump pack.
Naturally.
30 intercessors with them, maxed out Sanguinary Guard for Sanguinor, a Captain Dante, Inceptors, Suppressors, the whole shebang. Everybody's jumping around.
Oh, Inceptors and Suppressors.
Yeah.
Okay. Inceptors were the ones with the big kind of
bolt rifles or plasma.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of those.
Not a lot of anti-tank in that list, really, but you've got so much mobility, and suppressors are 85 points, jumping around all over the place. It's
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, now I was about to say, I think I've got a bunch of Inceptors lying around.
You just you gave them to me.
I think I gave them to you, didn't I? So
you did.
Never mind. That's that list ruined. But yeah, no, I think that's a really cool. So at 2,000 points, strike force level, you can pick up to 2 units.
Mm-hmm.
I think for objective-based tournament play, I think it's really good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Grey Knights have a similar ability, and that makes them very strong. So it's it's always a good thing, and a good mix of stratagems as well that really push that mobility as well. You know, from if you need to get into a corner to get an objective, you can drop them in within 3 inches. They can't charge, but who cares? They've got engage on all fronts, right? If you can also do things like give lance lethal hits or precision, to like snipe out characters to get the objective there. You can charge after advancing and falling back, like that kind of thing. So you can really, really push that mobility with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and even one of the enhancements, Gleaming Pinions, when an enemy ends a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches, you can just make a normal move up to 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use that to get away from an enemy that's about to set up a charge.
Or chase them down, yeah.
Or chase them down.
Yeah.
I think it's really good.
This is what I mean. Like every detachment in this book is a cracker. They're all really good.
But I didn't go for the tactical tournament play one. I went with the theme, obviously. It wouldn't be a down list without an aggressive theme. And I think aggression probably is the right word for this. This is the Death Company detachment. So the Lost Brethren, those battle brothers who fall into the embrace of the Black Rage, are inducted into the ranks of the Death Company. Garbed in black, these Lost Brethren are deployed as shock troops, their hatred and delusion driving them relentlessly forward and inspiring them to acts of savage violence. Death Company formations are typically focused upon close-range combat. Squads of Death Company Marines advance into hails of enemy fire, shrugging off seemingly mortal wounds in their burning need to reach and slaughter their foes. Towering dreadnoughts stride across the battlefield, their clawed appendages carving a bloody swathe through cowering foes. Skull-helmed chaplains marshal the lost, their bellowing litanies stoking the fires of hatred within the hearts of their charges and ensuring that every last battle brother meets the honourable death in combat that their heritage demands.
So no one's surviving this.
Nah, this is
friend or foe.
Absolutely.
No one's going home today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just thought it was very cool. Very cool.
Cool. So talk me through what you put in them.
Right. So detachment rule, a noble death in combat. Each time a Death Company model from your army makes a melee attack, reroll a wound roll of 1 if that model's unit is below its starting strength. If that unit is below half strength, you can reroll the wound model. So you have to have lost a dude to obviously get that, which is a bit frustrating. You're not getting a bonus straight away, but whatever.
You're gonna lose some dudes pretty quick.
You're gonna lose some dudes. Yeah, that's 40k, right? The other thing is keywords wise, Death Company Marines with bolt rifles have battle line.
Oh, good. So you can really load up with them.
That means you can take 6 instead of up to 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which it wasn't really relevant in this because I wasn't taking more than 3 of those units, but it's just a useful thing if you wanted to really lean into it. Now, I sort of set myself a bit of a challenge because I was like, so there's a new Blood Angels army box coming out. I'm sure Blood Angels players will be picking it up. And I thought, what would a force centered around this box look like? I did do an initial list where I lent into that a little bit more. And I said, what would a list with 2 look like? And basically, if you buy 2 of the new Blood Angels box and 1 of the new Blood Angels Combat Patrol, so the Blood Angels box gives you Lemates or a chaplain with jump pack. It gives you Astarath or a captain with jump pack. I'm sure you could convert that. Death Company Dread, 10 Death Company Intercessors, and 10 Death Company Jump Intercessors. And basically times that by 2, add in a starter box, whatever, Combat Patrol, which is a Death Company Captain, 6 Sandguard, and you do also get 10 spare Intercessors, but those weren't used. And that's 1,995.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Or you could actually drop the duplicate kind of Astarath Captain and Lemates Chaplain, and then just put in that other squad of Death Company Marines. But then you've not got very many chaplains.
Does the new army box come with the book as well?
It does. It does indeed.
Okay, so it's one of those things where you get a couple you could sell the book on. And
yeah, so what's the army box going to be? Like 120 quid, right?
Yeah, it's exactly what I did with my crew. I ended up with 3 boxes and sold a couple of the books and got some money back for that. And that's more money for a character that doesn't come in the box. And
exactly.
Yeah, very good.
So I think that this will be about 120 quid on release.
Yeah,
and the combat patrols are how much these days?
So it varies, doesn't it? I think it varies a little.
About 100 quid.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so I reckon this will come down to combat patrols are 100 quid. When did that happen?
Oof! Wow.
Are they really? God, that's spicy. That's spicy. Yeah, so I reckon this is about a 350 quid army.
Which is reasonable nowadays.
Reasonable, but yeah, right. But that's not what I took. I took the box and I took that as it was, but I converted these special characters to be the
Captain
sort of
and
vanilla
Chaplain.
versions.
Yeah,
So yeah, Lamatis as a standard chaplain with jump pack, and Astarath just I'd convert to be a captain with a jump pack, but obviously Death Company version. That comes to a measly 805 points. And then I basically kind of like looked around my hobby room and thought, like, what else could I use that's kind of got existing boxes? Now I've got a Space Marine Spearhead box, which was also all the jump troops and the bikes and the ATV and a jump captain. I've got the Indomitus box and I've got a Leviathan box. So I then basically created a Death Company list of fast-moving things, and I did put some Death Company on bikes, right? So I did put bikes. I'm going to paint them black, but they won't be Death Company or whatever.
You'll just run them as bikes.
Yeah. So it's a chaplain on bike, 6 bikes, and he goes with that, and the ATV as well. 10 more Death Company with jump packs, 10 foot combat Death Company Marines, an apothecary biologist, a Death Company captain, and then a captain Terminator armor and 5 Terminators.
Do you think they're like looking a bit sideways at the Death Company guys, like, oh god, because they're the elite, aren't they? They're the best of the best. And we're like,
well,
oh,
that's
God.
the point. Guys. Is that I wanted this armor. I want every squad to have a character leading it. So
keeping them under control.
The Lamatis chaplain goes, the normal chaplain goes with the Death Company Marines with jump pack. The captain with jump pack goes with more Death Company with jump packs, but he can obviously be swapped out for a chaplain as well if you wanted to give them objective control. The Death Company captain on foot goes with the normal Assault Marines. Again, he could be swapped out for a chaplain, like a normal chaplain, if you want to give them OC. And the apothecary goes with the Marines with rifles. Now, I think you could probably get away with swapping them for normal Marines if you wanted to put them at the back on objective, because obviously they're not going to have OC without a chaplain. Or again, you could swap out. I think you could basically swap out all the characters to be chaplains and then have army with OC.
Yeah,
but you are at risk of any precision strikes removing that chaplain.
Sure. Yeah.
And the chaplain on bike goes.
With, precision's not too
that common,
prolific though.
No. And I gave the enhancements I took were Sanguinary-curious Grace and Slay the Warmaster. So Sanguinary-curious Grace, once per battle at the end of a fight phase, if the bearer is within engagement range of 3 or more enemy models, the bearer can fight an additional time, which I think is really powerful. That's only 20 points. And Slay the Warmaster, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, if the bearer is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy character models, you can select one of those character models and roll 66 on a 4-up, suffer a mortal wound.
Yeah.
So, on average, 3 mortal wounds.
It's very good, yeah. Anything
potentially 6 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, like a Space Marine captain's only got 5 mortal wounds. You could. This is obviously statistically unlikely, but you could one-shot a Space Marine captain.
Which would always be good.
Which would be pretty cool.
So, what do you think about the change to? Because obviously we've lost Firstborn Marines, Firstborn Death Company with jump packs. Now, I remember a good few episodes ago now when we were looking at Blood Angels lists. I've just pulled that list up, and I had a unit of 10 Death Company Marines with jump packs. Every single one of them had an Inferno pistol and a Power Fist.
Yeah,
and that was 260 points. Now, that's a bit silly, isn't it?
That is a bit silly. And do you know what? I think if you were running, I think I wrote a list. We talked about Blood Angels list for the event, didn't we? And I wrote the same. Yeah. I had the same unit. Same unit. And this is I suppose the weakness of the 10th edition system, in that you have a set cost and no points variation, so that you can't have like a Stern Guard. Remember when Stern Guard first came out, or the rules first came out, and you could have every single unit could have Combi Melter, or every single unit could have a Combi Flamer, and it's just like, well, that in itself is wildly different in terms of efficiency on the battlefield.
Yeah.
That is, I think, one of the frustrating things about
they have to do these tidy ups and these restrictions because of the system that they've implemented, right?
Yeah,
I think avoid
Stern Guard probably a bad example because they can still replace all their things with combi weapons. But I think I remember seeing on a WhatsApp chat someone was like, "Oh, I've seen leaks of the Codex, or I don't know whether they published on Warcom or there's a leak going around, but they said, oh yeah, they've lost the ability to take 10 Thunder Hammers and 10 Inferno Pistols." And they were sort of complaining about that, and it's kind of like, well, Like, did you think that was going to survive? Did you like if you're running a unit like that, you are, I suppose, like taking advantage of
it is
of a weird rules interaction, which
it's
one assumes is going to go.
it's like when power level was a thing, and you'd be like, oh, let's play a power level battle, like a bit of a chill one, and someone would give all the upgrades because you just play you would pay a flat cost for the unit.
Yeah, I think that's what I was referring to when I was talking about
Yeah.
Stone Guard, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's a bit cheeky, isn't it? So like,
it is. I think I do wonder whether it's ever going to go back to the old way. Heresy is a very, very meticulous point system in sort of the old style. You can upgrade things with all sorts of different variations. You give the Sergeant Artificer armor, or you could give them a Vexilla, you could give them a Nuncio Vox, you could give them an Augury Scanner. There's all sorts of different variations in this writing, and that's part of the fun of the game.
Yeah, getting really gritty and granular with it.
Yeah, I like that level of granularity. I think for 40k, it's designed to be a much more kind of mass market product. So that simplicity is there. I do wonder whether element of something like it's 100 points for a squad, and every single upgrade you take is 10 points.
So make it a bit more complicated, but not.
Yeah, it doesn't have to go all the way back to the old style, but I think some level of variety could work, or just as it is with it's kind of in the box.
Yeah, I go back and forward on whether I because I love just putting a list together in no time on the app. It's a really nice experience. It's really easy to use. It's just, and it tends to like round out, like it's quite rare that you'll be massively short on points by the time you've bought an enhancement. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think on balance, I like the simplicity, but I do sometimes miss, that granularity, and it has led to some silly situations like that 10 Thunderhammer, 10 Inferno pistol unit for 260 points. But they're dealing with that. It's different, right? It's different.
If you were running that and hoping that it would last into the new edition,
you weren't kidding yourself.
I think you were kidding yourself. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it whilst it lasts.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to run that list. I was going to run that unit, but I was going to super glue those arms, not plastic glue.
Yeah.
That's where I was at with it. I was like, I'm not going to blue tack it. I am going to glue it, but they are going to be snappable off.
Equally, if I was playing my friend in my garage and he was like, "Can I bring this unit?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure." It wouldn't bother me that much.
Kind of like that open play style of just like, whatever. That unit's going to wreck face. But then you'd probably be like,
"Okay, kill it first."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there we go. It's kind of a fairly aggressive list. Every single squad's got a character in it, and every single squad could be given OC if you swap the apothecary out for a chaplain and swap the captains out for chaplains.
Yeah,
and that's all within kind of
and all those captains giving all those lovely free stratagems as well is a really good change. The fact that it's no longer restricted just to battle tactic is a really good change. I think they've got that rule in the sweet spot now.
I think so. I think it's really good. The idea behind this list is that the Death Company are being unleashed on the enemy, and then like there's a kind of Terminator captain with a squad of actual Blood Angels Terminators. So they're the only ones that are going to be painted up in red, and they're basically there to make sure there are no survivors. So if the Death Company don't get killed by the enemy, they're there to kind of like administers the Emperor's mercy in the battlefield.
I really like that concept. I think that's brutal. But there's a little opportunity to have Astrath in there as well, isn't there, for that role? And very cool.
Yeah, or maybe Astrath in there. Yeah, you could tweak the list for sure.
Yeah,
but I think it's really cool. And the best thing about this list actually is that it actually would fit within the Angelic Host and within the Liberator Assault Group. So this list could easily be taken in any of the detachments.
Yeah,
it's got enough jump troops to take advantage upon Wings of Fire. It's got enough Death Company in there that you can fire out those stratagems on kind of souped up mode without taking a hit to the OC. And then that way you wouldn't have to then think about replacing the captains with chaplains to give them OC, because you're like, okay, cool, that's just going to be my stratagem target.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to kind of finish with. Is one of the strength of this book is that balance and that variability and adaptability of the detachments. Like you say, this list you've written would fit any of them. the jump pack list I wrote would work pretty well with the Liberator Assault Group. You know, those buffs to attacks and strength on the charge would help 70% of that list I wrote. You know, but it's a very well balanced book. Definitely an improvement on the first Space Marine supplement that we saw. And I think, I just think another really solid addition to 10th in terms of army rules. I think they're doing a pretty decent job. I've not been as concerned with like Codex creep as I have in previous editions. You know, there's strong armies out there, but I feel like they're keeping it in check. But I'm not playing as much these days. I don't know. I'm a bit less au fait with some of that stuff. But you know, from what you hear and what you see, it feels like they're doing a better job with the balance this time around.
Yeah, no, I'm inclined to agree. Like, there's always going to be strong armies. There's always going to be less strong armies. But I feel it's not as egregious. But then we haven't had the Elder Codex come out yet, so
no. What we're going to do with Fate Dice, who see? We will see. We will see. Yeah.
One thing I do want to cover, though, we did say we'd compare the Apothecaries and the Sang Priests.
Oh, of course we did. Yeah, go for it.
The Apothecaries are 50 points, the Biologists are 55, and Sang Priests are 90.
So that's almost 100%.
That's a bit cheeky, isn't it?
So what do you get? What do you get?
What do you get? So stat line, the same. So you've got movement 6, toughness 4, 3 up save, 4 wounds, leadership 6, OC 1. Obviously, the Biologist is in Gravis armor, so he's got movement 5, toughness 6, and 5 wounds. And OC of 3, which is pretty cool. So the normal Apothecary, you can return 1 destroyed model to that unit per command phase, whereas the Sanguinary Priest gives 5 up feel no pain.
Oh yeah. What I think just against everything, not just mortal wounds.
5 up feel no pain.
Oh, that's really strong, isn't it? That's a really good ability. Ooh, is it worth it? Is it worth the extra points?
Yeah, and so Gene Seed Recovery, normal Apothecary. When the model's bodyguard unit is destroyed, roll 1d6 on a 2-up, you gain a CP. I think that's kind of
Sure.
you don't really want to be using that, right? Great, I've got a CP, but my 10 my 10 intercessors are dead, so great. Whereas on the Sang Priest, you've got Blood Chalice. Whilst the model is leading unit, improve the AP characteristic of melee weapons by 1.
Oh, he is
which
better.
which is way it's way better. But is it 40 points better?
This could be one of the book anomalies that we see, right? And as soon as we get the app, it will be, I don't know, he might be 20 points more or something. We have seen some wacky points values in the book, haven't we?
I think if he went down to like 60, he's an instant take.
Oh, he's amazing.
70, like 80, 90. It's quite spenny, but it's still like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Whereas the Biologist has, when this model is leading a unit, weapons equipped by models have lethal hits. Whereas I took that guy to lead my Death Company Marines with bolt rifles because I figured I'm not too fussed about melee weapons. I want to give them lethal hits.
Yeah, lethal hits on that number of shots is good because, you know, a bolt rifle is going to do fine against toughness 3, toughness 4, but you're going to start to struggle against anything up from that. So it gives you a bit of anti-tank, like, well, you know, not reliable anti-tank.
No, but something.
An option. You could tickle.
You can certainly tickle a Tyranid. But also the Biologist has got a really cool rule, which is Vivispectrum. If this model's unit destroys an enemy unit as the result of a melee attack, till the end of the battle, this model has an objective control characteristic of 9.
Ooh.
And I just think if you're advancing with your kind of intercessors and you're there with your bolt rifles firing on full auto DACA mode into, I don't know, a unit of orcs or like a unit of grots on objective, and you basically charge these guys towards the weakest unit.
Mop them up.
You mop them up, and then
you've got
this guy's got OC 9.
Nothing shifting him.
No. Whilst you've then got also probably some Death Company bodyguards or like intercessor bodyguards to keep him up. So I think he's a bit of
he's very solid.
Yeah. But yeah, Sang Priest. I'll be interested to see where the points go for that.
They are a primo unit. Yeah. If they get a little points reduction there, and auto take for sure. For sure. Yeah, overall a really solid book. Thank you again to Games Workshop for sending us a preview copy, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think of the book. Let us know which detachment you think is your favourite. If you have strong opinions about the new Sanguinary Guard models, then obviously let us know as well. I certainly will probably be 3D printing some wings to go on the get some wings on
them. Absolutely. But you know, it won't necessarily ruin my day if I don't. But yeah, let us know what you think of the new Blood Angels models and Blood Angels rules. And until next time, keep calm, crusade on.